Hello everyone, Choi Yoon-seok here. I'm at my home in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I just wrapped up the day, and right now, it's 11:17 p.m. Since I've been here in the US, I've been making the rounds at tint shops, and it's given me a lot to think about, especially how tinting in Korea differs from tinting in America. It naturally gets the gears turning. There's a huge US community called Reddit. It's where everyday people talk about politics, the economy, society, culture, cars, and pretty much everything else. It's one of the busiest Q&A platforms around. And there are tons of posts about window tinting. Shop owners join in, users join in, and all kinds of regular people discuss every topic imaginable. Today, we'll look at a few bad tint jobs and use them to talk about tinting in America. Turns out customer complaints about tint happen in the US too. People say Americans tend to just let things slide, but people are people. So when they're unhappy with a tint job, the complaint sometimes ends up right there in the community. Let's check out a few of those bad installs and break them down together. First one. Was my tint installed wrong? That's the title of this post. The shop told the customer to let it dry for 3 or 4 days. They'd had tint installed before, but had never seen bubbles last this long. It had already been 3 days. The whole car was tinted at 15%, and it cost $180. Should they go back to the shop right away, or wait a little longer for it to dry? Looking at these photos, honestly, this is kind of wild. All these little specks. I don't think everyone is dust. Look at the center. Several large dust particles are bunched under one big bubble. When debris bunches up underneath, the film can't fully bond to the glass. That creates an air pocket, which is why the bubble appears. Bubbles don't just appear out of nowhere. There's debris trapped underneath. Keep that in mind. A bubble like this forms because something is inside it. Here, there's quite a lot of dust. Now, in the second photo, they photographed dust spots all over the glass. In the third photo, that's a whole thread. A half-inch long fiber is trapped inside, and the film is folded over it. It got pinched. Maybe it happened during squeegeeing. In the fourth photo, more fibers. In Korea, there really wouldn't be much to say. This one is not a common result. These 4 photos feel like a snapshot of one side of tinting in America. Looking at all 4, this may not even count as a major complaint here. In the US, this can happen in everyday work. But the dust, to a Korean customer, this could look completely unacceptable. Still, some say dust happens when you tint. And after a tint job, customers don't usually stand right in front of the installer, checking every inch for dust. That's not very common in the US. Americans are generally pretty courteous about it. They usually don't walk up and say, "You messed this up, didn't you?" That's just not the usual approach. So complaining on the spot in front of the installer is something you see more often in Korea. In Korea, customers may come in and say, "There's dust here. This was done wrong." In the US, that almost never happens. Walking into the work area can cause trouble. Even standing beside the car is considered pretty disrespectful. So when it comes to manners and personal space, Americans are generally very considerate. But this one is so obvious, so they spoke up. They paid good money for the tint. And drying will not fix this. It will never disappear just by drying. The dust won't vanish when the moisture drains. Since the dust remains, the bubble remains too. And with a long fiber like this, there's no clean way to peel it back and remove it. Window film uses pressure-sensitive adhesive. Once you peel it away, then stick it back down. You'll leave visible adhesive marks. So the whole piece must come off and be reinstalled. The customer should absolutely go back to the shop. Say they're unhappy with the result. and ask for the problem to be corrected. This will never disappear on its own. Let's look at the second case. Hey everyone, I had my windows tinted a few days ago, and the bubbles remain. Yep, more bubbles. The rear window is the worst, with several large bubbles. The film hasn't bonded around the defroster lines, so air is trapped all along them. And in the photo, the surface is rough in several places, on the side and rear windows. It may be hard to see in the pictures, but there are strange little pockets, almost like tiny air blisters, spread across the film. The shop said to let it dry for about a week. Will all this really disappear when it dries? First, there's a ton of dust, not just in the upper right corner, but across the entire window. From what I can count, there are about 40 to 50 dust spots here. It'd be hard to add this much dust on purpose. I have no idea how an install ends up like this. I'm not trying to disrespect the installer, but charging a customer and sending the car out like this is hard for me to understand. This should not happen. Some shops take customers before their skill level is ready, so customers need to learn how to spot those shops. That's part of the customer's responsibility too. Don't assume every tint shop will automatically do flawless work. Ask around, read reviews, and choose carefully. If a tint job goes wrong, fixing it is a major hassle. Now look at this section. The bubbles are forming at right angles around the defroster lines. The fingernail effect. It looks like a little fingernail. Here, it's forming midway along the defroster line. I've seen many installers in the US produce this exact problem, but many don't know why it happens. Why do bubbles form midway along a defroster line? A surprising number of people here don't know. Skill helps, but if they're thick or if they stick up more than usual or have a very smooth coating, this problem can show up easily. That glass can trigger it. Then the installer wonders, why? Some technicians with 10 or 20 years of experience still ask that same question. So in today's video, I'll explain it and why it happens. This problem comes from improper heat shrinking. What exactly went wrong during shrinking and which technique causes it is all covered in my videos. Shrinking technique was wrong, and that's why this happens. It may not happen on every car. One car looks fine, while another gets boxy bubbles following the defroster lines. So yes, it's a heat shrinking technique issue. Either way, it's a bad tint job. And the dust issue. This much contamination is beginner level work. The customer should absolutely go back to the shop and have the window redone. But when you do, who performs the reinstall matters a lot. Be sure to ask, who will redo the work? Ask that question clearly. If the same person who did this job does it again, you'll probably get the same result. So make sure the shop assigns a technician who can prevent this problem and have that person handle the redo.